We turn now to politics and the new Bloomberg Des Moines Register Iowa poll. We are joined by Selzer and Company President Ann Selzer, who conducted that poll. Welcome, Ann.
Good morning.
Last night when the poll numbers came out, political junkies were staring into their devices. The first thing they were looking at was on the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton is at 37, Bernie Sanders is at 30, and Joe Biden is at 14. What did you see in those numbers?
Well, I think the first thing that jumps right off the page is this is the first time in Iowa that we've seen Hillary Clinton below 50%. And she's not just a little below 50%. She's lost a third of her support since June.
And is that a move away from Hillary Clinton or a move to Bernie Sanders? What's happening to her support?
Well, her support is going a little bit into the not sure category, with people sort of being waiting there. But the Bernie Sanders vote is certainly getting stronger. And I think important to point out, it isn't just that there's an anti-Clinton sentiment. It isn't that. So that's perhaps the good news for former Secretary of State Clinton. That is, when we ask Bernie Sanders supporters, is this because you align with Bernie Sanders, the person and his views, 96% say yes. I mean, overwhelmingly, that's what they're up to. And Clinton's favorabilities are very strong. So she's in sort of a place of discomfort, where her first choice horse race, not so good.
So Sanders voters are feeling the burn. Who are they? I mean, who's turning out for Bernie Sanders?
And this, I think, also is fascinating, is that you look into the internals, as we call them. Who is it that he is strong with? So he's losing by 7 points. He leads by 8 points with people who say this would be the first time they participated in the caucus. He leads by over 20 points with people who say they consider themselves independent and people who are under age 45. Now that's the Obama coalition. Those are the groups he put together that surprised Hillary Clinton in 2008.
So funny, too, because, Bernie Sanders is older. He's not the kind of fresh new millennial character that Senator Obama was. What about Joe Biden? Any news for him here in this poll?
Well, I think he gets 14%, which is better than he's ever done running for president in Iowa before. So I think that's probably the good news. He draws about evenly from people who would be Clinton and would be Sanders supporters. So it's not clear how that exactly would play out. His favorables are very good. So there's an opportunity here. We also asked Clinton supporters if they would be comfortable with the field, and we clarified that would be a field without Joe Biden if for some reason she had to drop out. And 51% say, in fact, they'd like someone else in that mix.
Let's switch over now to the Republicans. The numbers there in the horse race question are Donald Trump at 23, Ben Carson at 18, Scott Walker and Ted Cruz at 8, and Rubio and Bush at 6. So Trump is on top. He's been that at other places. But what struck me was his numbers on the favorability rating.
Yes. A few months ago, he had the highest unfavorables of anybody. Sort of Chris Christie was in that league with him. And people said, well, he can't possibly do any better in the horse race because his unfavorables are so high. Can you really ever turn those around? And I said, we've seen everything happen. And we certainly saw it happen this time. He now has 7 people with higher unfavorables than he has, and that includes Jeb Bush. So he has grown his favorability, and it's turned into votes.
Yeah, I mean, he was toxic before, my word, and now Republicans have warmed to him. Now, Ben Carson, you couldn't think of a candidate who's any more different than Donald Trump, right? Self-effacing, quiet, but he's coming up strong in Iowa. Is he sort of the slow and steady kind of Rick Santorum, Mike Huckabee candidate that we've seen in previous races?
I think he sort of is the Huckabee version of that. But he also has made a real presence, kind of a quiet presence, I'll say. So nobody is really doing much on television, but he has billboards quite everywhere. So Ben Carson is in your community, really, on a pretty widespread basis. He was drawing last year. He was drawing packed crowds. So people know him. He has a book out that you trip over them because they're kind of everywhere. So there's a lot that people are finding that they like. Now, he's also not an establishment candidate. And if you take the numbers who support Trump, the numbers who support Carson, the numbers who support Carly Fiorina, that's 46% of the vote right now. You can add Ted Cruz if you want, you quibble with that. That puts it over 50%. That says something about the mood.
Yeah, and what is the mood? What does it say about Jeb Bush?
Jeb Bush's numbers don't look very good here. He's dropped in terms of support. His favorability numbers are not looking like, he's not making improvement in Iowa. And I think by the time we're heading into September, He's been at it for a while. You would be looking to be gaining some traction.
And then just quickly, Scott Walker, Iowa was supposed to be his state. What's happened to him?
Well, I think everything's been a little bit quieter since Donald Trump jumped in for everybody else, number one. But number two, I think he's just not out there in a big way, in a big presence. So his support has been cut in half.
All right, Ann Selzer, thanks so much for being with us.